What's up guys, Dutogiraikonoka here, and welcome to what will be our 5th review of the cards coming out in the Grand Tournament. Sorry it's been so long in between reviews. The way I've been doing things so far is just every time they release a new set of legendaries, I'll do a new review. And Blizzard kind of held out on us for a long time with the legendaries, but we got some new ones, so we got some more to review. Since the release of Fiola and Adis, they've released Silent Knight. He's a 3-mana 2-2 with Stealth and Divine Shield, largely irrelevant in both Constructed and Arena, I believe, although it has been pointed out that he could be very good in Oil Rogue, in the same manner that Shade of Naxxramas is good in mid-range Druid, where Shade was good in Druid because it would slowly build up over time and become a lethal threat with Force Savage. Silent Knight is just almost impossible to remove, given that he has Stealth and Divine Shield, and if you put Tinker Oil on him, he becomes a 5-2. Combine that with just a basic rogue weapon and Blade Flurry, and if you can get Tinker Oil off, you've basically got 5 damage from him, another 8 from your weapon, plus Blade Flurry. If you combine that with, like, say, Deadly Poison as your enabler, you've now got a 7 attack weapon, so that's a 19 damage combo, which your opponent just won't be stopping, period. So, pretty cool. But, except for possible play in Oil Rogue, which also doesn't have a lot of 3-drops, which is where he would fit, I don't think Silent Knight is all that relevant anywhere. Next up, we've got Argent Watchman. He is a 2-mana 2-4 with the text can't attack. Inspire, he can attack. Thing is, there is no class at all that wants to be using hero power on turn 3. Even classes that don't really have good 3-drops, like Shaman and Rogue, they don't want to use hero power turn 3. So, Argent Watchman's largely irrelevant because of that reason. So yeah. Then we got Spellslinger, a 3-mana mage minion. He's a 3-4 with the battle cry, add a random spell card to each player's hand. In an aggro matchup, Spellslinger wouldn't be amazing. In a control matchup, your opponent's already got minions they'd prefer to be playing instead of some random spell, so they're not likely to cast it, which means you would actually just get a free spell for the most part throughout the course of the game. But, I mean, in Constructed, I'm just not sure, even though this has some synergy with Flamewaker, it competes with Flamewaker to be played on turn 3, and Mage already just has strong enough minions to be playing. So I'm not sure Spellslinger is going to see Constructed play. Not to mention that the random spell could be absolutely terrible. There's a whole host of like half of the spells in this game that are just garbage, but we never think of them because we never play them. So, do I think that Spellslinger is going to be played in Constructed? He might in Tempo Mage, but that's a really liberal might. I doubt it. I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I highly doubt it. Let's see what else. We've also got Demon Fuse, a 2-mana Warlock class card with the text give a demon +3/+3, give your opponent a mana crystal. Let's just do the math on this card. Let's say you use this around turn 4, you've played Imp Gang Boss, you give it +3/+3, it's now like a 5/7. It's a Doom Guard now, instead of an Imp Gang Boss. And then you play some other 2-drop or you tap. You play this on turn 4, and you give your opponent a free Wild Growth. That's already 2 mana, that makes this a 4-mana card. Given that your opponent gets 1 extra mana crystal every turn for the rest of the game, he gets another 6 mana off of that. That means that not only did this cost you 2, it gave your opponent 8 mana's worth of value. It's a 10 mana give a demon +3/+3 if used on turn 4 or earlier. I would not play that for crap. Especially given that we have Demon Fire already, which is give a friendly demon +2/+2, or deal 2 damage to a minion that's not a demon. So, Demon Fuse just straight up sucks. That's not going to see play anywhere. It's not worth it at all. Period. We're done. Alright. Next up is Argent Horse Rider, a 3-mana 2-1 with Divine Shield and Charge. I could see this seeing play in something like an Aggro Paladin, just because if you smork with this card, and Aggro Paladin already smorks a lot, then you're basically going to be getting 6 damage off of him because your opponent is going to have to pop the Divine Shield on Argent Horse Rider, and he's going to have to then deal with the 2-1 body. So, there you go. 6 damage for 3 mana. It's not necessarily distributed as you want. You only get to distribute 2 of it as you would like, but 6 damage for 3 mana, that's pretty good. So this might see play like an aggro paladin. Otherwise, it just doesn't compare to other 3-drops to see play. But still decent, especially if you give this thing like Blessing of Might. Get a 5/1 with Divine Shield and Charge for 4 mana. Yes, please. So, there we go. The most interesting thing about this card, which plenty of people have been pointing out, is that it is literally half of an Argent Commander in every way, shape, and form. But, there you go. He's just interesting. Okay, on to newer cards. We've got Flame Lance. It's a 5 mana, deal 8 damage to a minion mage class card. And, it seems pretty decent, because, I mean, it's like, oh, you could remove just about any minion you want, you know. 8 damage will take care of something like a Ragnaros, it'll take care of most late-game minions, Kel'Thuzad, Giants, it'll take care of just whatever. But then you realize Mage already has Polymorph, and Mage largely does not play Polymorph. Polymorph is a mana cheaper and just deals with anything up to and including Ysera and Deathwing. And such crazy high health cards as that. So, Flame Lance, all in all, I mean, if this could be used to target face, yes, it would see play, but it would be broken. Because you would literally be giving mages Fireball, Frostbolt, Flame Lance, Pyroblast, and Ice Lance. 5 direct damage spells that do ridiculous amounts of damage for their mana cost. So, well, Pyroblast isn't really that crazy for its mana cost, but the other 4 aforementioned cards are pretty crazy for their mana cost. So, yeah. Flame Lance, I mean, maybe if you see a really heavy control mage deck coming out, it'll see play, but otherwise, it's inferior to such cards as Shadow Word Death and Polymorph, Hex, etc. So, it'll be decent for Arena, because it's a common level removal, but, Constructed? No. Not good enough for Constructed, I don't think. Next up, we've got Darnassus Aspirant. It is a 2-mana Druid class minion. It is a 2/3, which is decent stats for a 2-drop, and it has the battle cry Gain an Empty Mana Crystal. It basically wild growths for you as its battle cry. Now to balance this, its death rattle is to destroy a mana crystal. But the point of the matter is, if you can kind of keep Darnassus Aspirant alive for long enough, or bounce it back to your hand with something like Ancient Brewmaster or Youthful Brewmaster, that death rattle won't go off and you won't lose the mana crystal. So you'll get a 2-drop that wild growths for you. In terms of late game applications, if you draw Darnassus Aspirant late game and it ends up dying late game, you don't care. It's just a vanilla 2-mana 2/3. It tries to give you an empty mana crystal, but at 10 mana it won't. It won't give you excess mana either, I don't think. But they've never actually talked about whether or not that'll give you excess mana, but I don't think it will. That'd be kind of busted. So that's where Wild Growth has a little bit of an advantage over Darnassus Aspirant. It does have cycling when it's drawn late game if you don't really want it. But even so, if this guy is killed on turn 10, you're just going to get the mana crystal back the next turn. So, it's not like you'll become permanently capped at 9 mana. So Darnassus Aspirant is pretty cool. It's got some nice synergies with the pandas. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see some Ancient Brewmasters being played in Druid just because Darnassus Aspirant is that cool. But I don't know. Because quite frankly, this does get answered by a lot of different 2-drops, Knife Juggler, etc. And if you're replacing Wild Growth with this, and then you lose the ability to get that Wild Growth tempo, it's just not going to do you that much good. It might as well just be a 2-mana 2/3 if it gets killed off instantly. So, we'll have to see. But I like it, Darnassus Aspirant. I think it's kind of pushing Druid into a cool, more minion-based direction, instead of just being this combo deck that wins via Force Savage, which I think is the most busted combo in the game. Yes, more broken than Nozdormu Brewmasters. Yes, more broken than, I don't care what you want to name, more broken than the Grim Patron OTK combo. I do not like Force Savage because it is a 2-card combo. But that's just me. Next up we got Wrathguard. He is a 2-mana 4/3 Warlock class demon. With the text, whenever this minion takes damage, also deal that amount to your hero. So this guy's kind of similar to a 2-mana Flame Imp, that has been adjusted to scale. He's got stats of a minion that is costed at 1 mana crystal higher than what he is costed at. And as the drawback, you take direct damage to your hero. But in a class like Zoolock, you don't really care that much about damage to your hero. You're a control deck, and if you can get board control, that's perfectly fine. On average, this guy's probably going to deal close to 4 damage to your hero. 3 to 4 damage. You don't really want it dealing 3, because if this guy deals 3 damage to your hero, that means he got killed by something with only 3 attack. That's likely to be a 2-drop like Knife Juggler or Flame Imp, etc. So then he's not getting decent value. On the other hand, if he's taking up to 5, you might as well, I mean, if you don't care about taking 5 damage for a 2-drop, at that point, there brings on the question of why don't you play Pit Lord? And there is such a thing as losing too much health as a control deck. You just get absolutely shreked by aggro. So, yeah. Wrathguard, I mean, maybe Wrathguard won't really see play. The other downside, which has been pointed out, which is a hilarious combo, is if you Shield Slam him for 30, you will take 30. It's not like there's some exception for Shield Slam. If you get Shield Slammed for, like, some ridiculous amount onto Wrathguard, you will take that much damage. So, yeah. He's interesting, but, I don't really want to call him either way. I mean, I'm not a huge Zoo player, and the balance between taking damage to your face and just getting closer to a tempo death and getting value out of Wrathguard is a really thin line to walk, because if you're taking 5 damage, that's just too much damage for a minion like this. If you're taking 4, you're barely getting the correct amount of value out of this guy, more likely than not, because you're having to kill a 4 health minion. And if you're taking 3, you're probably getting him killed off by another 2-drop, which is not worth it. So, actually, the more I talk about Wrathguard and the potential drawbacks of trading, the less I like him. I will reserve judgment simply because I'm not a Zoo player, and it could be that just a bigger Flame Imp is able to be played alongside Flame Imp, but I'm skeptical about his constructed playability. Next we have Shadowpan Cavalry. He is a 5-mana 3/7 for Rogue with the text combo for +3 attack. A 5-mana Boulder Fist Ogre isn't all that bad if you were to like backstab or prep beforehand. Otherwise you're going to be playing just a Boulder Fist Ogre or a slightly more expensive Boulder Fist Ogre because you're having to trigger the combo text. But more important than that, Rogue is not a control class. It's not a class that thrives off of big minions. The only real viable constructed Rogue deck right now is Oil Rogue, and Shadowpan Cavalry is not going to change that. A 5-mana Boulder Fist is not enough to change a deck from being this combo-oriented deck into being a control class. It doesn't work. So, I mean, I understand that it's more important to review cards from every perspective, but there is nothing to make a control rogue, and therefore nothing to warrant running Shadowpan Cavalry, even if he is consistently a 5-mana Boulder Fist. So, there's just no reason to play him right now, unfortunately. So, we'll see. Maybe Rogue will just get a bunch of control cards, but if that doesn't happen, Shadowpan will not be constructed playable. In Arena, he's a just straight-up Arena Bomb. I mean, a 5-mana Boulder Fist for Rogue, one of the already strongest Arena classes, at common level, perfect. But constructed, not so much. Alright, next up we have Master of Ceremonies, a 3-mana 4/2 with the battle cry, if you have a minion with spell damage, gain +2/+2. A 3-mana 6/4 is really good. I mean, admittedly it does get traded into by like a Shredder, but you're going to get off at least 6 damage with this before a Shredder kills it off. So that's not all that bad of a thing. The bigger problem is that we don't have any great 2-drops that have spell damage. You got Blood Mage Thalnos, but he doesn't contest many other 2-drops. And you've got Kobold Geomancer, who doesn't contest a great number of 2-drops. So, I mean, you're suffering a tempo loss for a turn 3 tempo gain, which is a little bit of a non-bow considering that losing tempo on the very earliest of turns 1, 2, and 3 in order to regain it a little bit later just doesn't work the way you want it to. It almost never works the way you want it to, so we need to see a better 2-drop with spell damage. before Mastery of Ceremonies becomes constructed playable. In Arena, you can't rely on a 2-drop with spell damage to trigger that. So, I mean, it's just a 3-mana 4-2. And while a 3-mana 4-2 is not bad, it's not constructed material. So, I don't think Master of Ceremonies will see constructed play at all, but that is assuming that there is not some ridiculously good 2-drop with spell damage that we see released. If we see that, we can see Master of Ceremonies. If we don't see that, we're not seeing Master of Ceremonies. So that's my judgment on that. I guess we did go over Coliseum Manager, didn't we? Next up, we got a whole nother host of cards. Alright, we got Druid of the Saber. 2-mana 2-1 for Druids with the text choose one, charge, or +1/+1 and stealth. A 2-mana 3-2 with stealth is good, coupled with the fact that because this is a Druid of the ... other than Druid of the Fang, of course, this is going to be a beast regardless of which form you put it into. That means that this is helping Beast Druid along, but not only is it doing that, it's helping it along with a stealth minion. That means it's going to be a lot easier to trigger Druid of the Saber. Or not Saber, Druid of the Fang. With Druid of the Saber. Because if you have a 3-2 with stealth, it is a little bit easy to clear with things like Holy Nova, Hellfire, Consecration, etc. But honestly, I don't think a 3-2 with stealth is something that people are going to want to use removal on alone. So, we'll see. But, I like Druid of the Saber. I think it is pushing more of a Beast Druid deck. And I'm eager to see that kind of a Druid that can just do this tribal thing, because Beast Hunter never really worked. Oh, I shouldn't say that. It did kind of work, but they nerfed Buzzard so hard because of it that it doesn't work. So, we'll see how Beast Druid gets along. But Druid of the Saber's helping it, and I like that. Not to say that it's playable in any deck other than Beast Druid, but we'll see. Next up's Crowd Favorite, a 4-mana 4-4 with the text, whenever you play a card with Battle Cry, gain +1/+1. This is kind of cool. It seems like it's a stylistic, we fixed it version of Frostwolf Warlord. And it could be useful in Zoo, it could be useful in something like an aggro paladin deck. You've got things like Abusive Sergeant, Argus, Sun Fury, Dark Iron Dwarf. In Paladin, you've got, what's it called? Argent Protector. You've got Aldor Peacekeeper. In Warlock, you've got Flame Imp. Even Doomguard, actually, in Warlock. But the problem with Crowd Favorite is that it's got a direct counter to it already in the game in Nerubar Weblord. If this card becomes too powerful, Nerubar Weblord will be teched in, and it will just shut down not only Crowd Favorite, in fact, it won't actually shut down Crowd Favorite itself, it will just shut down the entire rest of the deck that Crowd Favorite is built around, which is a problem for that deck. So, Crowd Favorite, it might see constructed play in kind of a Battlecry aggro deck, but if it gets so good that we're building decks around it, it will just be teched against with Nerubar Weblord. So, I'm not worried about this card breaking formats. I will never call this card OP. But is it potentially powerful? Sure. It could be powerful. We'll see. Next up is Bash, a 3-mana warrior class spell. The text is deal 3 damage, gain 3 armor. Not bad when comboed with Shield Slam, honestly. That's 6 damage, but does Warrior really need removal? They've already got War Axe. Like, there's no 3-drop that really needs bashing all that much when combined with a War Axe. So, I don't think Bash is really going to be played. The thing is, we're getting into territory that's starting to upset me a little bit, because we're now seeing deal 3 damage spells for almost every single class. Paladin lacks one, and Priest lacks one. That's every class that lacks one. Rogue, okay, you could make that argument. I consider Deadly Poison and Fiery War Axe to be 3 damage spells, because Deadly Poison combines with your hero power. Fiery War Axe already can deal 3 damage. But Warrior's up to the point where not only do they have now this actual deal 3 damage spell, but they're getting into what I consider is 2 3 damage spell territories, and it's just not cool. Because it's like, I'm waiting for him for Priest and things like that, something that'll make a Velen deck work. So, Bash kind of angers me a little, because I don't think it's really that constructed playable, but Blizzard's starting to give 3 damage spells to classes that really don't need them as much as other ones could use them. I understand kind of the design non-bow between, you know, a priest and a 3 damage spell like the other classes. Priest is known for healing, so is paladin, but both of those classes could still find a way to have that. So, yeah. I don't like Bash. I don't think it's constructed playable. In Arena, it's just fine. I mean, an extra 1 mana for a deal 3 damage spell, it means it's not going to be answering 2 drops, but there's plenty of 3 drops it answers. It can answer 2 drops a turn late and gain 3 armor to recover the tempo. So, Bash isn't bad in Arena. Not constructed playable, but conceptually, the fact that they're releasing a second deal 3 damage warrior spell is just kind of like one of those baby rage moments. So, that's my opinion on Bash. Next up, we've got Brave Hunter, a 1-mana 2/1 Hunter minion. That is a complete Disney princess reference. Props to you, Blizzard. The text is Inspire. If your hand is empty, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. Honestly, I don't know why a 1-drop is going to have that much synergy between an empty hand. Like, this card is very squishy. If you're playing it on turn 1, you're never going to get the Inspire off before it ends up dead. And if you're saving it for the later game, it's not a threat late game. Like, it can easily be dealt with by late game minions and board wipes. So, maybe in top deck mode in Arena it's decent, because there are worse 1-drops to pick up in Arena. There are worse commons. But it's not groundbreaking in Arena or constructed. So, I don't think Brave Hunter is all that relevant to the game. Unless we see some sort of ridiculous Inspire Hunter that's like a combo deck that uses Garrison Commander, Brave Hunter, and like Justicar Trueheart. So that you can get off like 10 damage off of 2 hero powers? Yeah, something like that. Plus from the attacks of Brave Hunter and Garrison Commander, you'd get another... Well, I mean, I guess it's 20 damage if you count minion attacks, but... yeah. We'll see. I don't think that Brave Hunter is going to be constructed played, though. Okay, so next we actually got something... Well, this will be for the next video. We'll do this part for the next video, but we do have 2 new legendaries. We have Aviana, a Druid class legendary. She has a 9 mana 5/5 with the text your minions cost 1. That's just ridiculously cool to me. The first thing is that there is a clarification in the subsection down below with regard to Aviana, that Emperor Tharzan will make Aviana's minions cost 0. If Aviana's removed, those minions go back to regular. But still, Aviana plus Emperor Tharzan, who can already see play in a constructed ramp druid, you now get free minions as long as they were hit by Tharzan. That's really cool. But even without that, you play Aviana and then, like, Innervate. You can now drop something like Kel'Thuzad plus Faceless or Kel'Thuzad plus Ancient of War. You've got this ridiculous ramp potential, and it does turn into kind of a combo situation. But it's a combo through minions, and it's a combo that, as a priest player, I laugh at just because of the hilarity of being able to, like, light bomb, that kind of stuff. It's a good day for me. But still, Aviana's really cool because it is a turn 9 combo that does not immediately close out the game, but does present a massive threat, and yeah. I think Aviana's a cool card. So, I'm happy to see Aviana here. I think it kind of helps push Druid away from being that mid-range combo Druid deck that I so despise, because this is not that useful in mid-range combo. And brings Druid more toward ramp, which is what I really think Druid is meant to be. So, yeah, sue me. It aligns with my opinions of what the Druid class should be. I'm just saying this card is good because I'm biased. Seriously, though, it does make Ramp Druid playable. I mean, this isn't even like a Wilfred Fizzlebang moment for me where I just, like, PogChamp over the fact that it's like, oh, I see a 0! Ah! Even though Wilfred may or may not actually be able to replace Tharzan. He probably won't. He might be seen alongside Tharzan in Malygos Lock, but that's not what you guys came here for. Aviana actually has notable constructed combos. to get out free minions or to just combo again with like Kel'Thuzad and like an Ancient of War with an Innervate. That's a 4-card combo, and it sets up a ridiculously hard board to clear. That's really cool. So, yeah. Anyway, next up we have Malorn. He has returned. Only, he's different this time. When Malorn said, I will return, or not I will return, I have returned, he somehow did it as an 8-4 instead of a 9-7. I guess his stats took a hit. On the other hand, he did improve his Death Rattle. His Death Rattle is now to return him to your hand and summon a 4-4 Nerubian. That's pretty cool. You know, Malorn no longer goes back into your deck, he goes back into your hand, and he leaves a minion behind so he's not even a huge tempo loss when he gets killed. It's not like he's actually removed. The one problem with Malorn right now is that he changed into a Druid card. Yeah, I just said he changed into a Druid card. No, he did not change into a Druid card. He changed into a Rogue card. And Malorn as a card is most useful in control decks. And that means that this new version of Malorn that they're calling a Nubarak, yeah, Sumi, I know who a Nubarak is, but still, he's like Malorn, is a class-specific legendary for a class that does not play control. In fact, it's a combo class that doesn't care at all for these big, beefy late-game minions that have this sort of, like, crazy high value ceiling. So, is a Nubarak constructed playable? Not at all. Not unless we see a control rogue deck emerge. And so far, I mean, we've got the Shadowpan Cavalry, but just adding big beefy beaters into there is not going to make rogue constructed playable as a control class. You need removal spells other than just sap, which is a tempo card, not an actual value removal card. You need stuff like that. You've got Gang Up, but that's such a tempo loss that it doesn't even really count. You need, again, hard removal, beefier minions, and good ways to clear the board. And the best way Rogue has to clear a board right now is like a 3-card combo through Blade Flurry. 3-card combo. So, you need to not have, like, non-combo based board clears in order for Rogue to become a control class, and we don't have that. If we see it, maybe a Nubarak can see constructed play, but he will not right now. On the other hand, in Arena, I mean, a card like that in Arena? That's just ridiculously strong. If that doesn't get immediately silenced, it's going to run away with the game. So, there you go. Those are my thoughts on the cards that have been released so far. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe maybe. I would love that. And if you didn't like it, let me know why. Just make sure it's constructed feedback. And if you have any differing opinions to my own, feel free to post them. I value all of the opinions. They are all value. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.